I'm the one who's making life so hard for you that you would rather go back to the military? Nah, I would have his head. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Queenie. For those who don't know me, reviewing Love is Blind Sweden, Season 3, Episode 8. Before I get into it, please make sure to like this video, subscribe and hit the bell, and leave a comment down below. So we start with Daniel and Joanna. They are talking about their different love languages. I don't know what they exactly are. Oh no, I do. His is physical touch, because they talked about this before. His is physical touch and hers is quality time and I think acts of service. So that's interesting because they already had outlined that. But when this man was away, he's talking about he misses her. He wishes that he could talk to her more, but then didn't talk to her and didn't come back so they could spend time together. So I'm here like, okay, do you understand that that is her love language and that's what she needs to feel appreciated, seen, heard, valued by you? I'm not getting that sense. And even if he didn't understand that, her being sick should have been enough reason for you to be like, I'm going to go here, do what I need to do, and get home as quick as possible so I can tend to my fiance. Like that alone would be enough for me to want to get back to my person. But the fact that he didn't want to do that, and then on top of that, he knows that spending time with her and doing acts of service is the way that she feels loved. I'm just like, okay, well, Daniel, what's up? What's up with you, right? So they're also rehashing this weird conversation, argument, whatever that they had, and we don't have the full context on what the issue is. He says that he would like to keep talking about it. She's not keen to talk about it anymore. She just wants to like watch a show. They just want to laugh, create memories. And he's like, no, but I really think that we should talk about this. Again, we don't know what they're talking about. And I also want to clarify, because somebody was asking me if I'm seeing a different Daniel. Contextually, yeah, I was seeing a different Daniel, because based on this episode, we do learn a lot more about how Daniel is actively trying to antagonize Joanna. But from episodes, let me say, from episodes 6 and 7, I did see growth. The man went from not wanting to talk about anything vulnerable at all, not wanting to get emotional, not wanting to open up, to now being more open to having deeper conversations, to sharing about feelings and stuff like that. To me, that is progress. In this episode, he severely regressed. But the point of the matter is, he was showing growth in that department. Now, this whole thing that they're having is weird to me because we don't get to know what this argument is about. So again, it seems as if Daniel is more willing to have a conversation, whereas Joanna is like, you know what, we could just put that on ice and we can rehash it at another time. At face value, it looks like progress to me. So that is why I did give him his props. Later on, Joanna says that there's something about Daniel that proves to her that she can't trust him. We have yet to figure out what that is. It comes up later in the episode. But I was just like, okay, I'm gonna need more from you, Joanna. For me to side with you, I'm gonna need to hear more, right? And then Daniel says it's becoming exhausting to have to deal with Joanna because she wanted him to open up. And now when he's ready to open up, she perceives everything as an argument. Whereas for him, he's like, I'm just trying to have a conversation. I'm trying to get down to the nitty gritty on what's going on in a relationship. And now you don't want to talk. It was hard for me to pick a side because I couldn't see who was like more at fault here. I'm going to land on Daniel. It's going to be Daniel. But at this point, I really was unsure who was causing more harm in the relationship. Rania and Lars Eric talk about Christianity. So she feels like he's very intense in his Christianity. And he takes offense to that because he feels like he's a reasonable Christian. Like, I'm not a Bible thumper, or I'm not super judgmental. Like, what do you mean by that? For somebody who's not exposed to religion at all, I can see how Rania would probably perceive Lars Eric as somebody who's very intense. And then on Lars Eric's point of view, I could see how he doesn't see how intense he is, but having experienced baby Christians, a lot of them are very intense. A lot of them are insufferable. A lot of them don't see how they come across to other people because they're just so on fire for Christ, which is great. Absolutely love that. But sometimes your judgment is clouded and you don't understand how you come across to other people, especially other people who are just trying to understand, whereas you seem to be judging them for trying to understand you. So Rania is now realizing that she should have been asking more questions because Christianity is multifaceted. And so she's thinking, okay, if you are a part of a branch that doesn't accept like certain gay rights, or you believe that raising your kids in a specific way goes against how I want to raise my kids, this is going to be a problem. And Lars Eric is like, well, that is only prevalent in certain denominations. That's not me. And even in my denomination, it's church by church. Like that's going to differ depending on what church you go to, which is true. But a lot of us can agree that Christianity as a whole tends to have certain through lines. You know what I'm saying? They tend to have similar, if not the same, beliefs on homosexuality, beliefs on politics, beliefs on what other stuff is out there? Premarital sex, kids out of wedlock. Like there's certain themes that are the same no matter the denomination you're in, right? So I can understand why this is a concern for Rania. I don't understand why it took so long for them to have this damn conversation. At the very beginning, they should have spoken about this great fundamental difference. Christianity aside, the belief in a deity is a big thing. If you do not believe in a higher power already, I know we're not going to work out already. But then you're telling me you don't believe in Father, Son, Holy Ghost. You don't believe in Christianity. And then my subsect of Christianity, like that's going to be a big problem. And the fact that these two didn't think it was going to be a big deal until now is crazy to me. So Lars Eric is offended because he feels like her questioning Christianity is, in a sense, her attacking his own like morals, his belief system, his character. And then on top of that, too, he believes that this is her trying to find excuses for the relationship not to work out. It might be for her, like, oh, yeah, right, there is this one thing that I just can't get over, so fine, let's end it. But it is a viable excuse. It is a valid excuse. Excuse nonetheless, but it makes sense. Like, yeah, if we're not going to be able to agree on something that shapes so much of our worldview, it shapes how we show up in society, it shapes how we relate with people, it shapes the people who we want to relate to. Come on. That's a big reason why you should not proceed with a relationship. Rania just wants to make sure that whatever subsect of Christianity Lars Eric is a part of, it aligns with her beliefs. I don't think that's going to be the case. Lars Eric himself might align with her, but the belief system might not. And I say that because, okay, for myself, I was raised as a Seventh-day Adventist. Do I agree with Seventh-day Adventists? I don't. And I know there's going to be a lot of people who don't agree with the belief system itself, but we might identify the closest to that denomination, right? So if you ask me, sure, I will say I'm Adventist, but do I identify with everything that Adventism stands for? No, I do not. So I guess she's got to figure out, does she have a problem with Christianity, or does she have a problem with how Lars Eric practices his Christianity? And if he's going to take issue with her judging Christianity as a whole, then that's your answer right there. Y'all not going to work out. Aaron and Angelica debrief their little altercation, and she does admit that she was overreacting. She says that this is a thing for her. She was aware that things were going so well, and at the first sign of trouble, she thought that everything was going to unravel, so she ended up spiraling. And this is a concern to Aaron because he's like, okay, so are you going to be all in for me one day and then you're going to want to run the next day? That's a problem. And sure enough, yes, it is. You're admitting that everything was going well, and at the first sign of trouble, you wanted to run. You literally left him alone. Like you walked back to your apartment. Like that's, I don't know, girl. I don't know. In as much as she was looking for somebody who's established in like the physical sense, I think she also needs to understand that the emotional, the mental stuff is just as important. And she's coming across quite unstable in that department because you cannot run at the first sign of trouble when it comes to marriage. You cannot discount all the good that you've gone through because you experienced one bad thing. You cannot be upset at your partner for not understanding you when you yourself are struggling to articulate yourself. This man has been patient. seemingly. Well, what's the problem? How can I help? How could I whatever? She doesn't really want to let him in, and she'd rather just have these internal battles. And it's like, well, I cannot help you. Even if this man was the most established man on planet Earth, if internally you are not well regulated, or you don't have the capacity to regulate, or you don't allow somebody to come and help you regulate, you're going to find yourself in some trouble regardless. I'm still confused what that whole argument was about in the first place, but they both agree that they are in a better place. They're back on track. So, all right, we'll see how long this lasts. Fast forward to the engagement party. We have Camilla and Lwig who show up. Camilla says that she has been in communication with Lwig, nothing serious though. They spoke briefly and things just haven't changed between them. When Lwig is talking to Daniel, Daniel is confused why things didn't work out between Lwig and Camilla, because Camilla is just such a simple woman, and that's the kind of woman he would want to be with. Let me tell you something, Daniel, okay? This emotions thing is not a Joanna specific thing. So he admits that talking about his emotions so often, having to, unpack his feelings, having to talk about vulnerability and all that stuff is exhausting for him. Not only is it exhausting, he's not used to it. He was not raised this way, so it's foreign. It's foreign and it's exhausting. This is not a Joanna specific experience. This is what is required from relationships. If you want to be in a relationship with anybody, if you're friends with someone, genuine friends with them, there is going to have to be that vulnerability between you two as friends. If you're trying to be romantic with someone, the same rules apply. If you're trying to get married, damn near every day is talking about your emotions, at least in mine, because we're still newlyweds. But there's a lot of emotional talk. And if you're not ready for that, it doesn't matter how simple the woman comes across to you, you're going to struggle. So I don't even know what was the point of that comment. Talking about, but Camilla is so simple. You would have had the same issues with Camilla. Camilla was trying to have an emotional conversation with Lwig so they could get back together, and he was not having it. And that's why they broke up, because Lwig didn't want to unpack the emotions. He didn't want to get vulnerable. He didn't want to explore more than just the physical. So Daniel is opening up about the issues that he's having with Joanna. He's talking in front of some other people, and Joanna's just there silent, because what can she say? This man has basically put her in a corner where she cannot respond to anything. He's talking about the fact that, talking about emotions is hard and stuff, but I'm ready. I'm trying. She can see that I'm trying. Don't you see that I'm trying, Joanna? Don't you see? Joanna, how do you feel? Do you see my attempts, Joanna? I'm trying so much, Joanna. Joanna's there like, yeah. Yeah. I thought it was so unfair for him to want to rehash this in front of everybody, because clearly there's a tension here that people don't have the context for. So she's responding in a way that takes that into consideration, but the people around are probably just seeing Joanna as being difficult. Joanna knows why she's not talking. She's been put in a position where she's not allowed to talk about what's actually going on, and we're going to unpack that a little bit later. So I just thought that was very manipulative of Daniel. Don't put this woman in a corner when you know what's going on behind the scenes. Some other castmates arrive, including Fabian and Ellen. Fabian, he's not too keen on the whole Ellen situation. He is even more confused now than he was at the reveal, because when he spoke to Ellen outside, she said that she's not ready to be in a relationship with anybody, not him or anybody else. And she's actually not going to be ready for a long time. So he's like, well, what was the point of coming on the show? I had seen myself being with you. I saw us getting married. I saw a future between us. And you're telling me you know that you're not in a position to be with anybody for a long time. So you wasted my time. He feels even more offended because he had a conversation in the pods with Ellen about the decision to move forward together. And she said she was absolutely sure about it. Ellen, this ain't it. You coming across very shady boots. So Ellen finally comes over. She wants to talk to Fabian. I don't remember her voice always being so high pitched, but it felt like she was playing in his face. It felt like she was trying to come across like this sweet girl or whatever. It was weird. During this conversation, she confirms that she's not ready to date anybody. She hopes that he doesn't feel like she strung him along. You absolutely did. You absolutely did. And here I was feeling for the both of them. Obviously, I felt for Fabian because his heart was literally breaking. We saw it on camera. But then I felt bad for her because she had to hurt somebody in this way, but simultaneously she had to be true to herself. But now it's being proven that you weren't being true to yourself. You knew that you weren't ready for this, but you proceeded anyways. You took somebody to the finish line and then you ripped away the prize, quote unquote. You ripped away the prize from them. I also don't even feel as bad now that Daniel was going in on her with the whole vulnerability conversation to say, why are you forcing vulnerability so much? I'm now looking at her like, well, maybe you did deserve to be pummeled because maybe Daniel was picking up on the fact that this conversation is performative. You want me to get deep for what purpose? If you don't have true intentions, me getting deep is just me hurting myself. I'm making myself vulnerable for somebody who's not going to now create a safe space for me, who's not going to also be vulnerable in return, who's not going to give the relationship a proper try. Like, what would even be the point? Wow. Yeah, I don't feel bad for you, Ellen. I really don't feel bad for you anymore because that's crazy. I then felt bad for Fabian again because as he's talking to Ellen, he says that he was blaming himself for getting his hopes up. That's not your fault. The lady gave you something to have hope in. She gave you reasons to be hopeful. She pulled that thing from under you. She pulled the rug from under you. That's not a you problem. Trust me. He put himself out there. She made it seem like she was receptive and reneged very quickly at that. So that's not for him to blame himself over. Here we have Daniel. He is now wondering if things would have been different had he chosen Ellen over, what's her name now? Joanna. They wouldn't have been different because you struggled in the pods because you weren't unable to get vulnerable with her in the way that she wanted you to. She then later said that she wasn't ready to be with anybody. What would the difference have been with you? You're not the exception to that rule, sweetie, okay? Then this man is going to have a conversation with Ellen. And he's going to say, you're my number one from early on. I only saw you for majority of the process. Mind you, same guy who in the pods, when he was getting dumped by Ellen, said, oh, hold on. It's a mutual dumping because I already have made my decision. I was coming here to actually tell you that I'm going to focus on my actual number one. And when I close my eyes and I envision a future with somebody, I only see Joanna. I don't see anybody else. But now you talk about, oh, you've been my number one. You were always my number one. It was always you. Boy, bye. Throughout the event, Lwig and Camilla are kind of avoiding each other. When they showed up, they did hug, but they weren't really speaking, right? So finally they sit down and they're trying to, are they rehashing or just catching up? I don't know. The point is they were touching base and their conversation got cut short because Hannah arrived. As we know, Hannah was Lwig's other option and she got really offended because of the whole like gifts thing. And from there, he kind of just, left her alone and continued with Camilla. So she does say that the gifts thing is all in the past. She's not worried about that anymore. However, she was hurt that their relationship didn't progress to the point of engagement. And although she was happy for him that he found something great, she does kind of wish that it was her. He puts it out there that obviously he's not with Camilla anymore and he would be intrigued to see where things go with Hannah. Hannah shares a mutual curiosity, so they just kind of want to see where things go. And they leave us there. We finally get more context on what the hell is going on between Daniel and Joanna. She says that they had an argument because she wanted him to be more inquisitive about her friends and family. He was like, listen, if you have something important to tell me, just tell me. I'm not going to inquire about every single thing about your life, which is just crazy to me. So she gets upset because she's like, I want to be with somebody who is curious about my life. I want to be with somebody who wants to know more about me and where I come from and who I relate to and my family and my friends and all of that stuff. Like, that's not a crazy thing to ask for. So he then got to a point where he was like, okay, tell me. And she was like, I don't want to tell you now. Now I'm pissed off. I would rather go to bed. He said, I'm not going to bed until you tell me. So this is interesting because he was framing things as if he wanted to have this conversation, he wanted to open up, and Joanna is just being difficult. No, you were antagonizing the girl, forcing her to talk about something that she had already said she's no longer comfortable talking about with you. And now you're like doing this malicious compliance. Like, okay, you want to talk? Let's talk. Well, no, now you've pissed me off. So then she says to him that the pressure he's putting on her is similar to that of a rapist, which is wild to say, but I understand what she means. And it's at this point that this man pulls out his phone and he's like, ha, I got you. I've been recording you. Crazy work. There's some confusion about this whole recording thing. She's very offended at the fact that he wanted to record her. This is the reason why she feels like she cannot trust him, because what kind of person records an hour-long conversation without the other person's consent and then uses it as ammo against you in an argument? That's very weird. She gets emotional because she feels like this is something similar to what she's already experienced before. She also was told by Daniel that she cannot use the word gaslighting anymore. She told him, what you're doing right now to me is gaslighting. He said, don't ever say that again. So when he was bringing up the conversations that they were having, and then he's asking Joanna, hey, Joanna, how do you feel? Joanna can't say anything because you've told her she's not allowed to say what she feels. So now everything is making sense. When you take everything in context, he's absolutely diabolical. Like one of you guys said, like he's a wild boy. And so I understand Joanna being at her wit's end with this guy. Like, you gotta run. You gotta run. This man needs to talk to a therapist expeditiously. And you don't need to wait around until he comes to that decision. So here's where things get a little bit murky, right? Rania and Angelica have a conversation with Daniel. They're like, okay, let's get to the bottom of this whole recording thing. He's like, yes, I did record her. However, she's the one who mentioned recording first. So I thought she was being serious. I started recording. And at the end of it, I played it for her and I deleted the audio. This is not what the girls were told. Well, it was only Rania. Rania was told that this man just started recording out of nowhere. And she didn't know whether or not he deleted the audio, right? So he says, I have been trying to get vulnerable with her, but it's as if she's like blocking me out. She doesn't want to let me in. And again, this is a murky one because she did kind of admit to that. She's like, this is very reminiscent of something that I've experienced in the past. So I don't want to go down this road. And so it makes me think one could perceive, though I don't side with Daniel here, one could perceive that as you having your walls up and you not wanting to be vulnerable with your partner. Yeah, it's a weird one. So then Rania decides she's going to play therapist. She's going to mediate the conversation between Daniel and Joanna. And I'm glad, because I was like, let's stop with the he said, she said. Let's get to the source, right? So it turns out Joanna did say, oh, I could record you right now, or something along the lines of, I should be recording you right now because this is so crazy, right? Like, what you're saying to me is so contradictory. If I had a recording, I can point out to you where the contradictions are. Daniel says he took that literally. And so because he thought she was recording, he then recorded in retaliation. And he's still standing on the fact that he played it for her and then deleted it. She says, I didn't know that you did that. I didn't know that you deleted it. But even if that was the case, what kind of person just starts recording somebody without their knowledge? And I know a lot of people who do that too, child. They'll just be recording your conversation. And I'm hearing a recording and I'm thinking, does the person know that you... In some places, that's a crime, guys. But okay. This man starts to get emotional. And I don't know how to feel about his emotions because he could easily be manipulating the situation here. A lot of manipulative men know how to cry on cue. They surely do. And so he says, I'm just trying here. I want to be with this girl. I want to open up, but she's just not letting me in. Now the girls have turned on Joanna, and they're like, I can see it in Daniel that he's really trying. The man loves you. The man wants to be with you. It now looks like you're the one who has your walls up and you don't want to talk to him. And I'm thinking, I don't know where I stand. I can't tell if these tears are crocodile tears or if he really does feel like he just can't get it right. And here's another thing too. He keeps crying about the fact that he's just not measuring up. Talk to a professional. Talk to a professional in like the least derogatory way possible. I'm not trying to make it seem like therapy is only for people with like these problems, but he really has so many things he needs to unpack with a professional. I don't think that is a sole responsibility of your partner to carry on their shoulders because they have their own baggage that they're coming into the relationship with. He needs to speak to a professional. You're getting emotional every time you think about how inadequate you are as a partner. You gotta hash that out with a professional. So yeah, the women are now agreeing with Daniel, and I'm thinking, okay, obviously they're experiencing more of the conversation than we get to see. So is there something in Joanna that does seem standoffish? And do they feel like he's being genuine and he is trying to be vulnerable? I don't know. Oof, yeah, I don't know. You guys let me know where you stand on this because this is a sticky one for me. I side with Joanna more than I do Daniel because he does seem to be rage baiting her. But the women turning, that added a bit of confusion for me. We then see Dette show up. She doesn't even bother to greet every single person. She sees Lars Eric and she's like, hi. Let's talk. All right. So they go and they sit down. They talk about their relationship. And she says, I'm happy that I got to experience something amazing with you. I've never had those kind of feelings for anybody, but I am happy for you that you were able to find something even more beautiful than what we had. He says that the decision was really hard for him. And he even cried when he had to let Dette know that it wasn't going to, go further between them. He says he basically admits that he's aware that this wasn't God's plan for him. He said, it's either I was going to follow what God wanted for me or I was going to learn one last lesson. So to me, that makes it seem like you knew if God was going to lead you towards anybody, it would likely be Dette. And so you choosing Rania is you going against God's will for you and you trying to see if you could make something work, which as a Christian, fundamentally, that goes against what we believe. Like we believe that without God, things won't work out. So why? Anyways, this man says it's really frustrating dealing with Rania's opinion on Christianity because it basically calls out his character and he takes offense to that. And he knows that wouldn't have been a problem with Dette. I don't know what he wants from this conversation because he's basically saying, I made a mistake, both like in the physical world and in the spiritual world. I know that God is probably not pleased with this. I don't know what he wants Dette to say to that. Like, okay, that was your decision. That was your loss. Sucks to be you. Fast forward to Daniel and Joanna at their apartment. Well, actually, she's out. She's out getting something for them. He's on the phone with his friend. He's wearing earphones, so he doesn't hear Joanna when she returns. This man is on the phone talking about how difficult she is. She's a tough bastard when it comes to feelings and emotions. I would rather be in the military service than have to deal with Joanna because she's just so tough and difficult. He's saying all of this. She's sitting in the kitchen hearing everything he's saying. Unbeknownst to him, he's then recording, trying to show his friend around. He walks into the kitchen. Joanna's sitting right there. And he's like, oh, I didn't know you were here. And she's like, you think being in the military is easier than dealing with me? That's crazy work. The song that was playing in the background was saying, you're a dead man walking. He absolutely is. You're trying to make it seem like I'm being difficult when you are clearly agitating me. You are clearly antagonizing me. You are clearly trying to piss me off. And I'm the difficult one. I'm the tough bastard. I'm the one who's making life so hard for you that you would rather go back to the military? Nah. I would have his head on a platter. What do you mean? What do you mean? Yeah. So I do feel bad for Joanna in this moment. I do think a part of her is holding back, but I also don't think that Daniel has allowed himself to be a safe space to where Joanna can open up. So yeah, if her walls are up, she's justified to keep them up. Absolutely. So we'll see where things go. I hope that she cusses him out. I don't see her doing that, but I hope that she does. I really hope that she does. As always, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.